Hey guys, it's Roscoe, and on the Space Couch today I've got some Bigelow Aerospace updates for you. We spoke about them a couple of months ago. I thought it was time we found out what's been going on since then. If you recall, they launched their Genesis 1 and Genesis 2 craft back in 2006-2007. I found out recently that on Genesis 2 they had a Fly Your Stuff in Space campaign, a bit like Orion and Send Your Name into Space. So there's a bunch of people's photographs and personal items, and there was cameras on board capturing all this and beaming it to Earth so you can see your stuff in space. Also included in the stuff in space was a colony of ants, scorpions and hissing cockroaches, which I didn't even know existed. I don't know whose bright idea that was, but these insects have probably colonised the inside of that habitat now. I mean, they probably had a massive war, half of them ate each other, and now, who knows? I mean, well, I for one, I welcome my new insect overlords. But anyway, Bigelow Aerospace, as you know, it wants to launch its habitats as research stations, government listening posts, orbital observatories, hotels, space depots, refueling stations, not just in Earth orbit, but in the Lagrange points, orbiting the moon also, perhaps even an orbital outpost at Venus, orbiting that planet. That could be quite interesting. And also way stations on the way to Mars, and also perhaps part of those ships that will be going to Mars to give some extra space. But, I mean, the actual main aim for Bigelow, they want a lunar mining base. You know, a bit Space 1999, but hey, it's Robert Bigelow's money, he can do what he wants with it. They say that is like the ideal for them. It's like the brass ring, which is an American term for basically living life to the fullest. Building a lunar base, that would certainly fulfill that ambition. But you want to build a lunar base or expand to other planets, there's a couple of things you're going to need. One of those is investors to fund all this. I mean, even Elon Musk is getting backing from, say, the Google guys and Fidelity, you know. They recently invested in SpaceX, $1 billion. That's going to help fund their expansion. Bigelow, obviously, they're looking for funding as well, but for something like mining on the moon, you don't just need funding, you're going to need a legal framework as well. You know, what do investors want? They want clarity. They want to know that, you know, if you're going to mine the surface of the moon, you know, like helium-3, water ice, whatever else they might find. There were volcanoes on the moon until recently. There could even be lunar diamonds for all we know, and that would certainly, yeah, people would pay money for that. Problem is the Outer Space Treaty in 1967. It essentially says you can't own a celestial body, the moon, asteroids, whatever. You know, like you can't own the oceans, but you can exploit them. So that's the problem. Essentially, they're not allowed to go there. So not allowed to go there and mine as such. You know, so they need some sort of framework that will protect their investment, the investors and the company who are going to actually be on the moon doing the mining. So they've been trying, Bigelow that is, have been trying to put this in motion for quite some time. Obviously their plans, they need this legal framework. It appears to be bearing some fruit because it turns out 22nd of December, Bigelow got a letter from the FAA in response to a payload review, and this was only made public at the beginning of this month of February. I'm going to read to you what it says. It says, the FAA is, in principle, within the bounds of international law obligations of the United States, prepared to support Bigelow Aerospace's trailblazing initiative. This might not sound very much, but this is a very big deal. And these are the first steps that you have to take. Putting regulations in place that will give those investors the confidence that they will have the rights to whatever they find on the moon. Although if they find some alien tech, I expect the government will come in pretty fast. The timing of all this is all very interesting. Bigelow's now got the start of this legal framework. Later this year in September, they're launching the BEAM, you know, the Bigelow Expandable Activities Module, on CRS 8, one of the SpaceX missions to resupply the space station. If that technology demonstration goes okay, fingers crossed, it'll be awesome. You might start to see the initial orders or leases for BA330 habitats following afterwards, once this proof of concept is shown that it works. Problem with that also is there's no ships to take you there. This commercial crew initiative that NASA's doing to not have to rely on the Russians to certify the Boeing CST-100 and the Dragon V2 to carry astronauts. They're also going to be going to these other destinations. And also, you remember the Dream Chaser, the little mini shuttle that didn't get taken forward in the next round of the CC Dev programme? Well, there's a lot of interest in that space plane from the Japanese space agency, JAXA, and also the European Space Agency. They actually have recently had a programme where they were evaluating the Dream Chaser. It's called the DC-4EU programme, and apparently it's checked out pretty well. So what we might see a little bit further down the line is the CST-100 and the Dragon running those flights to the ISS and some of the other orbital habitats. And you might see the Dream Chaser going to, say, a Japanese habitat or a European station, or taking European astronauts to the ISS or whatever it replaces. I mean, ideally, we should start to see commercial space transport companies emerging soon. Virgin Galactic, obviously, is the first one that comes to mind-ish. If their suborbital thing works out, maybe they'll be able to do those intercontinental suborbs, who knows. Eventually, if they're still around, they could also run flights to these other places. SpaceX has made no bones about the fact it intends to be the premier transport company between Earth and Mars in 100 years' time. Elon Musk might still be around to see that. I mean, he's probably smart enough to figure out how to live forever. Anyway, that's not that important. Also, as more on-orbit destinations appear, then obviously you're going to need all these more flights, and if those original companies don't have the capacity to service them, then other companies will step in and fill that void. But anyway, this is mostly about Bigelow Aerospace. I thought I would share with you the costings from their website. This probably won't be the final figures. This is as it was recently. If you're flying to one of their habitats on SpaceX Dragon, it's $26.25 million per seat. If you're going on a CST-100, it's $36.75 million. If you want to lease one of these stations, it is $25 million for 1/3 of the BA 330, so 110 square metres for 2 months. So that would be, what would be, $75 million for the whole thing for 2 months. Do the math, work out over a year or whatever. If you want to just have naming rights, and you know that's very popular at the moment, say, well, I mean, football stadiums, football clubs particularly. For one, you know, they call their 2 habitat station the Alpha Station, or possibly it might be the Skywalker Station, I'm not sure. That would cost you $25 million for naming rights for 1 year. For one habitat, half that, so $12.5 million per year. So how long until we see, I don't know, Emirates Station? That'd probably be like New Dubai Emirates Station or something like that. Or, I don't know, Manchester United, Real Madrid, Barcelona sponsoring some of these habitats. Very interesting times ahead, and Bigelow Aerospace, as I've said before, very interesting company, and they don't get the publicity I think they deserve, although they may not want it. You know, they wanted to be able to get their stuff up there and out there. I can't wait for the first of those 330s to go up. I mean, obviously, we've got the beam, that's going to be amazing. So that's where we are with Bigelow Aerospace. Thought it was worth bringing all this to your attention because that video was my most viewed. So hopefully you guys will also have found this very informative. I'll bring you more updates soon and a few more book reviews in due course. As always,